All right, so I've got this bib rack finished up. I wanted to walk through the assembly steps just to show how it all goes together. So this is the first step here. I'm just going to explode these pieces out. So you got this. This is where the back plane mounts. It comes down and secures to our bottom plate. We got these welded rails on here, and then a little piece on here on the back, and that goes into kind of how it's mounted within the chamber. Um, but those drop down in place. With everything, I used an 832 hex head or hex button head screw. The idea was that we've got some tight spaces we're getting in. It'd be a lot easier to get a little hex wrench in there. Now, this is all 316 hardware because it's going in the Hast environment. And so part of that also is they don't have 316 kept nuts. So everything is just double nutted on the backside. So you can see right here, we got double nuts there, double nuts here as well. Uh, so that's pretty consistent throughout. I'll be providing a hardware list for this one because it is a hardware that's not necessarily sitting on the shelf. So first part is throw that back plane piece into position, as well as our little mounting bracket back here, which I'll explain a little more of later. Second step of the assembly is we drop our side pieces down here. It's again pretty simple. This is a mirrored component, so let's get two of those made, one on each side. Once again, securing with a hex button head screw going down, double nutted on the bottom side, coming up through the bottom. Um, so then once that's on there, we'll go into the step three, which is throwing the top plate on. One of the things that's different here is I've got a little, what do they call this? A cap nut up on the top side, since this is going to be a little more exposed and a little more visible, just a little bit cleaner look. So if I explode this one out here, then you've got this piece, it drops down. Once again, you've got the hex button head screw up here on the bottom side, but on the top, instead of just your standard double nut, you've got your flat washer, your nut, and a cap nut, just for a little bit cleaner look up top. So that's the top of the bib rack. The next step is to put our individual sliding guide rails in here. So I'll give you a little bit of a different view here. So these rails go in. This is what our bib is going to slide on. These are slotted here, so you can move it up and down and adjust accordingly, both on the top and the bottom. Once again, a mirrored piece, so same piece, top and bottom, and then securing with a flathead screw. Once again, socket head, just because of the tight confines we'll be working in. And then once again, because this is a little more visible, a hex nut and then cap nut as well. So those will go in. If you hit them dead center on the slots, then that should be lined up with the backplane, but those will be adjusted once the actual backplane goes in, which is this next step here. And so the backplane here, there's enough room to where it just slides into the side. So slide it in here into the side and then secure it via, I think it's 8 screws going through. And then they come through here to the backside, once again, double nutting things on the backside. So that puts the backplane into place right there. The next step is these little slide rails on the side. And so I'm going to go ahead and explode this out. Really what's going to end up happening, these are all mirrored components. Once again, I'm trying to mirror things everywhere where possible. What's really going to happen is each of these sliding kind of sub-assemblies will be put together off on the side. So you'll take this component right here, this component right here, and this component here, and they'll all be secured together. This works via a flathead screw coming through the back side of these, and then securing here through here with a once again double nut. These will be they'll have the interface boards on top of them, so a little less visible. So I didn't use the cap nut there. The reason I did it this way with the screws, rather than welding these components here, is just in case there was any sort of alignment issue on the cable assembly boards. If all of a sudden everything was sliding in and the cable assembly board needed to be brought out a little bit, you could technically space these off with washers. If everything's built as it should be to the correct tolerances and dimensions, that shouldn't be a problem. But I did want to provide a little bit of an out there to where we could modify if necessary. Like I said, shouldn't be necessary, but wanted to have that in there just in case. And so you'll assemble these three together and these three together off to the side, which then steps us into the seventh step of the assembly, which is adding in the actual boards. And so I'll label these all out in the drawing. But the reality here's what it shows. This shows those three components all secured together, and then you're securing the different cable assemblies to there. So I believe it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'll confirm that with the drawing. But then those secure onto this little assembly. Then when it comes down to actually placing those on the model, that's when they actually come through and you drop them in here and slide them into place and secure them to the back plane. The one thing I don't have showing on this, well, let's see if I can pull it up real quick. Yeah, is once everything is slid into place, then you've got a socket, cap screw, a lock washer, and a flat washer that goes through here and secures into a tapped hole on this rail. And that's just really just an extra layer of security, making sure that these boards don't go anywhere. Really, because you've only got, I'll actually pull a dimension here. I want to say 5 to 6 inches, 4 inches. You've got a 4-inch rail right here where this piece is actually sliding within an area. But back here on the back side, you don't have this portion of the rail because you want to be able to slide that in from the side because it's going to be sitting in the side of the chamber. And so rather than this backside just being loose, I wanted to be able to secure it with a screw. So same thing up there on top and bottom. We'll have the same sort of setup. So in all, that's our full bib rack assembly for the CC3 Hast. It's all. I wanted to kind of put that together, make sure I wasn't running into any interferences anywhere, and I'll start cutting some drawings for this, unless there's any other changes you'd like to see made.